Recently, my friend made a video where he nuzlocked every Pokemon region, which was really good, and you should go check it out if you haven't seen it already, but... I could do better. If you haven't seen his video, basically every time I beat a gym in one game, I will be transported to the next region upon exiting the gym. Since every single Pokemon game has 8 gyms in total, plus an Elite Four and Champion. Given the fact that there's 9 total regions, that means 1 badge in every region, finishing off with Paldea's Champion. Once he provided me with a link to download the ROM hack, I got straight to recording my own playthrough. By the way, here are the rules I'm using, you can give them a good look over if you want. I'm a much bigger fan of the remakes rather than the originals in most cases, which means I'm starting off with Pokemon LeafGreen. Now, normally I would choose Fire Red, but for this video I decided to choose the opposite version from what I'm used to, for the most part, just to spice up my experience a little bit. I name myself Bone Man, pick Bulbasaur and name him Frogson, and then begin my journey. My first encounter is a Rattata named Plaguerat, followed by a Mankey named a Pidgey named Perch, and finally a Caterpie named Dust. I quickly run through Viridian Forest, making sure to perform a maneuver some people seem to not know about around this first trainer, and after leveling everyone up, it's time to fight Brock. Frogson easily takes out the Geodude, giving Zaboomafoo the perfect chance to low-kick his Onix. First badge down, 0 deaths. We're doing good so far. I leave the gym, and suddenly I'm teleported to... Pokemon HeartGold. First thing I do upon reaching this strange new place is kidnap a child, and immediately after doing so, I'm rewarded with a Miracle Seed. Loving this region so far. I catch my next encounter, which is a Mareep named Conduit, and then I grab a fishing rod and come back to Violet City to get a Magikarp named Nimbus. Then I get my Union Cave encounter, which is a Geodude named Boulder. No, not Boulder. Boulder. Duh. I get an old man to fight Team Rocket for me, and then proceed to Slowpoke Well, where I find a Zubat named... Now it's time to fight Bugsy, who I promptly murder with 3 pebbles. Two gyms, 0 deaths. This might be easier than I thought. I leave the gym and get thrust into the 3D world of Omega Ruby. I'm used to my body morphing to different shapes now after the first time, so I go straight into Granite Cave to give Steven a letter and sit through his monologue about a dinosaur or something. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. After that, I catch a Makuhita named High Five and move on to Slateport when suddenly the child I kidnapped hatches from its egg. I name it Yoke and move on to Route 110 where I catch an Electrike named 9V and then my starter evolved. After this, May wanted to battle. She sends out a Wailmer, which I take out with a Vine Whip. Then she sends out Combuskin, so I send out Boulder. I know this thing has fighting type moves, so I want to get it out of here as soon as possible. Boulder then gets sand attacked twice before finally hitting a Magnitude. Then he gets double kicked, so I switch into Neume and take it out with a wing attack. She then sends out Shroomish, which Dusk can easily handle. Moving on, I have 2 new encounters left to grab. First, a Tentacle named Jello in Route 109, and second, a Volbeat named Twister in Route 117. After bullying Wally, Plaguerat evolves and I move on to fight the 3rd gym. Watson starts off with a Magnemite as I send in Zaboomafoo. I karate chop it a few times before it volt switches out with a Voltorb who dies to a single Bulldoze. Next up is Magneton, who also goes down to a Bulldoze, and then back out comes the Magnemite who honestly never stood a chance in the first place. I exit the gym and get transported to... Pokemon Shining Pearl. I level everyone up, Boulder and Neume both evolve, I fight some grunts, and then Neume evolves again! A complete surprise to me, since I knew this guy was a friendship evolution, but I guess he just loves me that much. Speaking of friendship evolutions, I make sure to bring Yoke along with me in the party, since I really need him to evolve. I then fight some random Psychic Trainer, and then 9V evolves. Man, everyone is evolving left and right. Next, I get my first Shining Pearl encounter, which happens to be a Ponyta named Fire Emoji. Then, a Hippopotas named Korg in Ruined Maniac Cave, and finally, a Girafarig named Racecar in Valor Lakefront. Then I fight this weirdo with a missing eye, and catch our last 3 encounters, which are a Shellos named Jaden, a Starly named Galaxy, and a Wooper named... Before fighting Crasher Wake, I make sure to switch around my party a bit. I grab Conduit, who promptly evolves, and so does Zaboomafoo. Starting out, he sends in a Gyarados, and I think, oh, hey, flying water type. no way it survives basically any electric attack, but of course I'm wrong and it tanks it. So I switch into New as Quagsire gets sent out. No idea why he thought he needed to switch there, given he almost killed Conduit, but it's fine. Neum is able to take out the Quagsire as Gyarados gets sent back out, so I switch into 9-Volt, who I was hoping to save for the Weasel, but no matter. I Volt Switch kill Gyarados and send out Frogson. I figure a Razor Leaf should kill it. Holy shit! That's an Ice Fang! Okay, we're fine. Somehow Frogson survived. 3 badges in and 0 deaths? I'm honestly very surprised. Right after the battle, Conduit evolves, and so does Yoke. Something I really needed because Fairy type is one of the few types that's super effective against Dragon. I then exit the gym and suddenly get transported to Pokemon White. We're back to the Pixel games now, given the fact that the Gen 5 games don't have remakes, which means it's originals from here on out. First thing I do upon arriving to this new game is by far the most important part of the run. I pick Zaboomafoo, and to my surprise, they let a monkey join the show. I send her out as pretty as she's ever looked, and she dances her heart out on stage. We obviously win the show no contest, because you'd be crazy to piss off Zaboomafoo. And then I level up Jaden to Evolution and move on to the next route, where the champion allows me to indulge in my favorite pastime of bullying children. I like this guy. I then catch 3 more encounters. First, a Trubbish named Garbage Day, second, a Ducklet named Looney, and third, a Vanillite named Gelato. Then I fight Team Plasma in the freezer and grab High Five from the box, who I evolve in preparation for the gym. I make 2 more stops before moving on to the gym though. One to catch a Swadloon named Mommy, and another to grab a Shiny Stone and evolve Yoke to its final stage. Now, I'm not messing around fighting Clay. I have a flawless plan. I send out High Five and fake out the Krokorok into a Focus Energy and start sweeping with critical hit arm thrusts. High Five manages to take down Krokorok but gets tormented and forced to use Smelling Salts on Palpitone. I alternate between Arm Thrust and Smelling Salts for a bit while wasting Clay's potions, and sadly I don't manage to hold off for another Arm Thrust before Torment stops me. I know High Five is going to die if he stays out, so I switch into Zaboomafoo, who was my backup for this fight. Fuck! Okay, this is bad. I only have so many contingency plans. I frantically switch into Jaden, hoping she can heal stall and whittle him down, but sadly, I'm given a taste of my own medicine, and she dies to a crit. Our very first death 4 gyms in. This is really bad now. My final strategy, I send in Frogson, hoping, praying he can do something. He lays down a Leech Seed and hits 1 Razor Leaf before I switch into Neum, expecting a Ground-type move, which I luck out on, and finishes it off with a Wing Attack. Mourning the loss of our first team member, we walk straight out of the gym and into Pokemon X. First things first, I lay Jaden to rest, and then level up the rest of my team and evolve Jello, Frogson, Nimbus, and Korg. Going into the Serena fight, you might be surprised that I lead with Volbeat, but don't be fooled, because he has Tail Glow, which raises attack by 3 stages. I set up and one-shot the Meowstic, and already Delphox gets sent out. I figure Boulder can deal with her, but no, he gets 2-shot by Psybeam. Second death. I send out Conduit hoping she could tank a hit due to her high special defense, and luckily I was right. I then charge into a Thundershock, which does next to no damage, so I switch into Korg for the Sandstream chip damage. I don't have too high faith in him to survive, but he gets off 1 single crunch which almost kills it, giving Nimbus a chance to switch in and deal with the Absol who gets one-shot by an Aqua Tail. We lay Boulder to rest and move on to get our next encounter being a Skorupi named Green Needle. Upon arriving at Laver City, I evolve Garbage Day and switch around my team in preparation for the Fairy-type gym. I'm not too worried about Valerie. My team consists of 4 poison types and 2 tanks, so I'm fairly confident I can beat her. Starting off, I lead with Garbage Day, who lays down 2 layers of toxic spikes, but I know he can't do anything to Mawile, so I switch into Korg, who puts it to sleep and kills it with a few digs. After seeing the Mr. Mime, I switch into Nimbus, who does decent damage, but ultimately isn't able to finish it off. I really need Nimbus for future fights, so I decide to switch into one of my poison types. I choose Jello as Valerie heals it to full, so now I'm even worse off than when I started. I try to go for an Acid Spray thinking maybe Jello can outspeed, which he does, and to my surprise, he even survives a Psychic. I go for one more, but sadly this time he's not so lucky. He gets outsped and dies, but so does the Mr. Mime thanks to poison damage. Finally, I switch into Neum for the Sylveon, and he easily kills it without any trouble. Upon leaving Valerie's gym, I get transported to Pokemon Ultra Moon. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Alola games, but it's just that the area I have to get through takes such a long time. I hope you guys love Alola too, because we're gonna be here for a while. I first lay Jello, the most bullshit death of the run, to rest, and then switch around my team a bit. I evolve Perch and Galaxy twice, and Looney once. I also catch 3 new Pokemon, a Pelipper named Lips, a Slowpoke named... and Extrasensory Fearow.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Once we plow through Po Town, it's time to fight Guzma. I swear to God, Neum better not die. I send in Neum, thinking he'll destroy Guzma's team. He fires off a wing attack, but barely takes down a quarter of Golisopod's health. I switch into Nimbus, and try my best to whittle him down. He switches out like the coward he is. Pinsir comes out, and I try to Ice Fang it, which misses. Just my luck. Next I switch into Conduit, and go for a Power Gem, which takes out half of its health, but she also almost dies. Then I switch into Perch, and manage to take it out with 2 wing attacks. Once Masquerain comes out, I try to get one single Feather Dance off, but unsurprisingly, Perch gets outspread and dies. I then decide to send in Cord, thinking he can maybe take a few hits while he yawns and puts it to sleep, which he barely manages to do. Fuck, I have to sack someone, god damn it! I make the tough choice to sacrifice Cord so I can switch into Neum without taking too much damage. Then I try to get one more wing attack off on Golisopod before he also dies. Finally, I switch into Looney and kill it with an Air Slash after using a Feather Dance to harshly lower its attack. 3 deaths in 1 battle. I shouldn't have to say how bad that is, especially losing Neum, who was an absolute powerhouse, but we gotta move on. Ha tells me Lily has been kidnapped and that I have to go and find her. Wait a minute, why do I hear boss music? After beating Gladion, I go and box my only dead member, Looney, and switch around my team some more as I proceed to assault a police officer. I lead with Togekiss and manage to take out the Sableye. Then I switch into Zabumafu, who tanks a Z-move, but fucking misses another Cross Chop! So I switch into Nimbus, get off a single Aqua Tail, and then switch into Frogson, who fucking flinches! Hell. What do you mean you flinched? I then switch into Conduit, who tanks a Dark Pulse, then thankfully gets a crit and kills it with Discharge. Then Krokorok comes out, so I predict the Earthquake and switch into Yoke, who somehow manages to barely survive until it dies. Now, most of the trainers in Aether Paradise are easy to deal with, but there is this one group of 3 trainers in a gauntlet that you have to fight one after another without being able to heal or switch your team around. And they also use X items, and sadly, I lost Zabumafu to this muck here, but other than that, it was pretty easy. Before we can fight Lusamine, there's a second Guzma fight. Starting off the fight, I lead with Garbage Day and set up 1 layer of Toxic Spikes. Then I switch into Nimbus and set up 1 Dragon Dance as Golisopod goes for Sucker Punch and... Wait a minute. Sucker Punch? Against Lusamine, I send out Garbage Day and set up 2 layers of Toxic Spikes immediately, but Garbage Day gets hit with a Psychic, and I have to decide whether I switch out or sacrifice him. Ultimately, I decide my other team members are more important to keep, so down he goes. I follow up with Green Needle, who takes out Clefable, and switch into Frogson for the Milotic and Beware, who both go down fairly easily. Lopunny comes out, so I bring out Conduit since Frogson is low on health, and kill it with a Discharge. Finally, for Lilligant, I send out Yoke, who has no trouble dealing with it. Now, looking back, I could have probably switched into Nimbus and Garbage Day would have survived, but there's no way I could have known that at the time, so rest in peace, Garbage Day. After evolving Gelato, I have a few new encounters to get. I catch Hindenburg the Whalmer, Jimby the Delmise, James the Inkay, and Heracles the Pinsir. Then, finally, I get another shiny stone to evolve Zelda, as well as my final encounter for this game being He-Men the Dugtrio. Once I make it to the 7th trial, I lead off the fight by sending out Yoke and lower Kamoa's attack before switching into He-Man, who's immune to Poison Jab.
From here, I switch back and forth between Nimbus and a few of my other members to intimidate the opposing Pokemon and lower their attack stats. Eventually, I switch back to Yoke, who dies from a Boom Burst after getting a few hits on the Komodo, and then I finally kill both Pokemon with an Ice Beam from Gelato.
Walking out of the cave, I'm somehow teleported straight into Pokemon Shield.
Now, personally, I love Gen 8, but the Dex cut is fucking stupid, and because of it, we've lost Conduit, Galaxy, Zelda, Twister, Racecar, High Five, Plague Rat, Mommy, and Extrasensory. Regardless though, we don't have much time to spend in this game since the next gym is less than 2 routes away. I switch my party around a bit, evolve Hindenburg in preparation, catch Uzumaki the Shelmet, Arceus the Meowstic, and walk into the gym, but not before talking to Ball Guy. Very important. Starting off the gym fight with Raihan, I lead with Hindenburg and Nimbus. His Flygon and Gigalith go down pretty easily to a few dives and Ice Fangs, but once he sends in his Sandaconda and Duraludon, things get dicey. Since I have to waste a turn switching into He-Man for the Dynamax, he Dynamaxes his Pokemon before me, and He-Man ends up getting paralyzed. After that, I Dynamax He-Man and try to take out Duraludon, thinking it can tank a hit, and it does, but not before being double-teamed and taken out by an Earth Power from Sandaconda. Panicking, I desperately bring in Lips to try and stall the Dynamax turns, but ultimately Hindenburg ends up dying. Finally, I send in Frogzen and Jimbei, who end up finishing the fight.
I walk out of the gym and get teleported for the final time into Pokemon Scarlet.
Sadly though, across Generation 8 and 9 alone, there was yet another Dex cut. This time, we lost Frogson, Jimbei, 9V, Dust, Green Needle, Uzumaki, Arceus, Heracles, Gelato, and Fire Emoji. Luckily though, a few of my Pokemon were brought back, such as Conduit, Galaxy, Zelda, Twister, Racecar, High Five, and Mommy. In preparation for the Elite Four, I decided to catch 10 Pokemon since that's the amount of Pokemon I lost in the Dex cut. And since Generation 9 doesn't have random encounters, I decided to settle for Terra Raid encounters. I caught Pyro the Charcadet, Migraine the Psyduck, Magatsushi the Hatena, Iraq the Rockruff, Kong the Knuckle-Stackle, the Skiploom, Pearl the Spoink, Shit-Ass Rat the Pomo, Arthur the Corvisquire, and last but not least, Leg Day the Medicham. Then, finally, I evolved all of, these Pokemon to their absolute final stage evolutions and got ready to face the Elite Four. The team that I settled on consists of Nimbus, the Gyarados that's had my back all the way since the second game and who's carried the team the most by far. Conduit, the Ampharos that, weirdly enough, got caught around the same spot as Nimbus and who's tanked more hits than anyone else by a long shot. Magatsuchi, Kong, and Arthur, the newest members that I'm confident will pull their weight and hit like a truck no matter what. Wait, I think I'm missing somebody. Oh, right. And Pyro. He's feeling a little sleepy right now. After winging some random test I didn't study for, I first have to go up against Rika. I send out Nimbus, confident he'll make quick work of her team after a few Dragon Dances, which he does for the most part until Donphan comes out with Sturdy, but Nimbus decides he loves me too much to die. Thanks, friendship mechanic. The rest of her team goes down no problem. 1 Elite Four member down, 3 to go. Against Poppy, I lead with Pyro, who sets up one singular Calm Mind and then proceeds to sweep her entire team with flamethrowers. For Larry, I send in Pyro again, who gets one single Calm Mind in while Tropius kindly sets up a Sunny Day for him and then promptly dies. Once Staraptor comes in, I Terrastalize into a Steel type to survive the Brave Bird and then kill it. Altaria comes out next and tries to use Flamethrower, but only ends up boosting Pyro's Fire-type moves thanks to Flash Fire, and then it dies to 2 Expanding Forces. Oricorio then comes out, and then Teeter dances Pyro, but the Chad doesn't even care and just kills it anyways. Once I see Flamigo though, I know I have to switch out. I send in Nimbus, who I expect to outspeed and kill it with a single Ice Fang, but sadly I was mistaken, and he dies to a Brave Bird. I then send in Arthur, who manages to take it down with a few Drill Pecks, but gets damaged quite a bit in the process. Losing Nimbus now really stings, but I can't give up just yet. I came here to win, damn it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Against Hassel, I lead with Zelda and wipe out the Noivern with a Moonblast. Next, Dragalge comes out, and I switch into Arthur, who gets a single drill peck before I switch into Conduit and kill it with a Dragon Pulse. Then comes Flapple, and I switch back to Zelda, who kills it again with one Moonblast. Next is Haxorus, so I switch into Kong, and slowly whittle it down as I set up Iron Defenses and heal with Recover. Finally, Baxcalibur comes out, and I already know this thing can do nothing to me since I'm on +6 defense, so I Terrastalize and take it out with Hammer Arm after Hammer Arm. This is it. There's one last thing standing in my way of becoming champion. I gather all my courage and step out through the door to fight Champion Gita. She sends out Esperatha as I send out Pyro. I set up one Calm Mind, but Esperatha also gets the same boosts as me because of Opportunist. I switch into Mommy in a panic, who survives a hit and manages to kill it with a Fell Stinger. Next comes King Gambit. Mommy gets off one Extazor before dying to an Iron Head. I send in Arthur, who finishes it off with a few Drill Pecks, but not without sustaining significant damage. Then Veluza comes in, and I have to sack Arthur for a clean switch into Conduit, who Okos it. Avalugg comes out now, and I know it's gonna go for a ground type move, but I just lost my flying type Pokemon, so I either have to sack Conduit or risk switching. I decide Conduit has come far enough, and I try to get one last Power Gem off before she dies, which she manages to do. My team is slowly falling apart, and I'm losing faith in myself at this point. I send in Pyro, who thankfully finishes Avalugg off with a Flamethrower. Then comes Gogoat, who gets one-shot by Armor Cannon. This is it. Her final Pokemon. This is the last thing standing between me and winning the game. I switch out into Kong, who I think should be able to kill it pretty easily, so I Terrastalize him, and he doesn't one-shot it. I send in Pyro, but he gets outsped and dies to a Terror Blast. This can't be it. I'm so close. I can't lose now. I send in Megatsushi, my final hope, my last-ditch effort to win, but ultimately, she gets outsped. All of the members of our team who fought so hard to get us here, all the miracles that have happened in this run flash before our eyes. It can't end like this. No! I refuse! I open my eyes, praying, hoping for one last miracle, just one more. And to my utter bewilderment, Megatsushi survived on a mere 2 HP. She fires off a final magical leaf and... We won? We won! Hey, I just want to say thanks for watching so far, but, you know, there's one more thing I need to do before I end this. Alright, final thoughts. First of all, thank you so much for watching. This took an insane amount of time, dedication, and storage space to make, so I hope I made it worth your time. If this video does well, I might do a randomized version, but only if you ask for it, so go tell me in the comments if you want that. Second of all, the thing I said in the beginning about getting a link to the ROM hack, yeah, sorry to disappoint you, but that was a joke. It's impossible to make this into a ROM hack regardless of how hard someone could try. If you want to do this yourself, you're gonna have to play through each and every Pokemon game up until the equivalent gym you're at, and then transfer all of your Pokemon from the previous generation to the next. Lastly, I want to say I know Yogurt's video has a lot more views, but I wanted to do this for a while now and never had the time because I was always working on other stuff, but now that I'm making it, I'm worried it might look like I'm just stealing the idea for my own benefit, and if that's what it looks like to you, then I apologize, because that wasn't my intent. Anyways, I have no plans to stop making videos anytime soon. It takes me a fucking while to upload, trust me, I know, but just let me cook and I promise I'll make you guys some top tier content, alright?
Okay, see you next time. Holy shit, did I win?